Welcome to the Gotland Class SSK Subbrief. This is Sweden's submarine fleet here. They have 3 of these wonderful submarines that they have recently refitted and brought back into service. And we'll talk about the history of all of this, including why they're back now. So they built 3 Gotland class for the Swedish Navy. Sweden back then was not a member of NATO, so they designed all these by themselves. They use, complete Swedish systems. It's a Swedish sonar system with Swedish weapons on board. Everything is in-house because they built this pretty much on their own, but there's some foreign manufacturing in things like the power plant that we'll talk about, and even the sonar system was made by Atlas Electronic. So, but for the majority, especially the weapons, it's all in-house. This is based on the older A-17 submarines. Those are no longer around, and it replaced the Shordman class of submarines. These are diesel electric subs that also have air-independent propulsion, so they can go back and forth between the two. It has 6 torpedo tubes, and 4 from left to right are 21-inch heavyweight torpedo tubes, and then there's 2 on the bottom, just under those, that have 40-centimeter lightweight torpedo tubes. So it can shoot lightweight torpedoes and heavyweight torpedoes. They keep it separate like that because you don't always need a heavyweight torpedo to get the job done. And you can store more lightweight torpedoes on a stow. It's usually about a 2-to-1 ratio, as much room as it takes for a heavy weapon to be on the same stow. One of the downsides to the Gotland class is it doesn't have any anti-ship cruise missiles. You won't be shooting any anti-ship cruise missiles, no harpoons, anything like that out of this submarine. These were modernized by Kockums in the 2010s. Again, they had a midlife upgrade, and they're back in service now in the 2020s. So the Gotland Class SSK, here's a great picture here of the torpedo tubes on the bow. They have 4 53-centimeter torpedo tubes, also 21-inch, same size. It shoots the TP62 heavyweight torpedo, which is a significant upgrade from the previous torpedo. It literally doubled the range and significantly increased the speed. It is a much better, much more capable weapon with a very large warhead. This is going to be a one-shot, one-kill warhead on anything smaller than an American aircraft carrier. It's very big. And then they also have the 40-centimeter torpedo tubes, just a pair of them at the bottom. And I want you to notice in this picture here, you can actually see the projector for the mine detection system that we're going to talk about. That's what that little lip is on the bottom there. And in the center between the two, you have 2 of the 21-inch torpedo tubes on the left and 2 on the right in the middle. That's the projector. So that pings out a very high frequency mine detection sonar ping. And then the little lip on the bottom is part of the receiver. Very cool system. There's more receivers, by the way, in that. Anyway, we're going to get into the sonar system. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the sensors in the mast. These are where your radars and your ESMs are going to be. They have the Sagem Series 30 Optronic mast. So that is basically a multi-use camera. It's got infrared, thermal, as well as visual color, low light. All the tricks are in this Optronic mast. It has a thermoscanter radar, which is a very accurate navigation radar. It can see coastlines, very small vessels, even things down to like a rowboat or a man in a lifeboat. It would be able to see those as much as it can a large ship. And then finally, they have the Accelsior ES 3701 radar ESM, which is a multi-channel recording system for recording what types and classifying what types of radars are being transmitted out there. On the bow and along the side, because as a flank array too, is the Atlas Electronic CSU-90-2 integrated sonar suite. Very good sonar system. And they have the Königsberg SA-9510S mine and obstacle avoidance sonar. And that was a big part of what was on the bow there. That was the projector. Okay, let's talk about the 3 that they made. There was the Gotland, the Upland, and the Holland. These 3 were all made in the early 1990s from 91. So they laid down in 92 rather, and all the way to 94. They were commissioned in 96 and 1997. So they're made in Sweden at Kockums shipyard there. Very busy shipyard, very capable. This is the same place where the submarines are maintained. So they come back here for a refit, and their midlife upgrade was all right here at Cockham's. So the modernizations, these began, there was 2 modernizations. There was one like in the 2010s, and then one again here that we show at the top of this slide, 2018 to today, basically, where all 3 were brought into the dry dock, into service for multiple years, and then recommissioned or redeployed back into the Navy in 2020. Originally, of the 3, only the Gotland and the Upland got the midlife upgrade, which included a extension of the hull. It was a significant upgrade. They added a diver lockout in that extension, among a few other systems. And then the HMS Holland was not going to be upgraded because these upgrades are expensive. And there was no reason in 2018 and 2019 to have all 3 of them. So they were going to save some money. But then Russia invaded Ukraine, and that spiraled out of control. And they realized they may need all 3 of these to defend Sweden. And so they went ahead and began refitting the Holland. Holland just rejoined the Swedish Navy in February of 2025. So they have all 3 of these again. And because they waited on the Holland, they were able to put new systems that's going to be on the new submarine, the Belkin class, that we haven't talked about yet, are on the Holland. So the Holland is unique amongst the 3 in that it has additional, more advanced systems. And that's all we know about it. We don't know their performances. I can assume that they're significantly better, but we don't have any details on what those new systems are. Sweden's keeping all that very, very secret right now. All right, so 50 new systems were installed. 20 systems will be used on the Belkin class. Like I said, that's on Holland only. They use the Stirling Air Independent Propulsion Mark III. So it's the 3rd generation of that. It's very good. Stirling engines are very efficient. So that's how they generate energy underway quietly. And then they use that energy for electricity and propulsion and stuff like that. So the Tactical Dive Navigation System, or TDNS, is installed. They shoot the TP-62 torpedoes, like we said. They have the SA-9010S sonar system and the ES-3701 ESM. Optronics mast was modified, and they have improved sensor security, IT security for networking, because every naval platform now that's modernized needs to be on the network with the rest of the fleet and command. And so network security is becoming just as important, if not more important, than the weapon systems themselves, because if you don't have good communication, you don't know what to do. You don't know what the orders are, or you can't work in concert with the rest of the nation or the rest of the fleet. So IT security and some crew comfort was improved with these modernizations. All right, Gotland class by the numbers. They have a diesel Stirling electric engines, 2 MTU 16V 396 SE84 Rolls-Royce engines power all the systems and the propeller, the shaft, if you will, on this. But they also can turn on the Cuckham Stirling Mark III air independent propulsion, which is a Stirling engine, and that can drive the shaft as well. The size of the submarine is 62 meters long, 6 meters wide, and 5.6 draft. Displacement on the surface is 1575 tons, and submerged it's 1680. It's a relatively light submarine here, but it doesn't need to be that big to do what it does. It does 20 knots dived and 10 knots surfaced going through the water. There's 4 53 centimeter torpedo tubes that shoot the TP-62 torpedoes, and there's 2 of the 40 centimeter torpedo tubes that shoot the lightweight, the Type 432 and 451 torpedoes. The TP-47 is going to be the new lightweight torpedo that comes out of the bottom 2 there. So the Atlas Electrica, or the Atlas Electronic CSU 90-2 sonar suite has 1 cylinder array on the bow and has 2 expanded flank arrays going down the side. And that is the magic. Those flank arrays are the best out of anything that's on here, whether it's the high frequency cylinder intercept array, which basically anytime they hear active, that's what's going to hear that and classify it for them. It's almost like ESM, but for sonar. But those flank arrays are what gives them the advantage in any sonar environment. Whenever you see flank arrays on modern submarines, they're not like the flank arrays of old that were not that great, in my opinion. These are a whole new synthetic aperture array that do amazing things with frequency and beams that give them extreme sensitivity when you need it and extreme accuracy as well. So those flank arrays, there's one on the port side, one on the starboard side, goes all the way down the submarine. Very good stuff. And then they also have the Cosberg SA95 10S mine and obstacle avoidance sonar system. High frequency, up to like 100K transmitted. So very detailed returns. They could bottom map with this thing. Shipwrecks, mines, changes in bottom topography would all be displayed from this SA95 sonar system. They have the XLS ES3701 radar ESM, the Terma Scanter surface search and navigation radar, very accurate, can see very small things, but you need that in the areas around the coastline so you can see where all the little rock outcroppings are, the shallow areas jutting out of the water, and of course small boats as well. They're going to be all up and down the coastlines where this submarine operates most often. The Sagem Series 300 Optronics mast is what you would refer to as a periscope, but I want you guys to remember that an Optronic mast does not penetrate the pressure tank, pressure hull where the people are. It is literally a camera that is hydraulically raised and lowered, and that camera has many modes, infrared, thermal, as well as color TV. And then finally, they have the Saab SE Sub 960 Bravo. We're going to talk about all these systems here in just a second. We're going to break them down one at a time. So here are the Rolls-Royce engines. These engines are extremely expensive, but highly reliable. And they produce a lot of power for very little weight. And so they have a V8, 12, and 16 cylinder configurations. They can generate just over 1,000 kilowatts running at 1,800 RPM. They're turbocharged and intercooled. And Rolls-Royce has sold these all over the world to all sorts of different ships and submarines. This particular engine IOC'd all the way back in 1990. And they're still using them today because they're so good. Okay, there's the Scanter 2002 navigation radar developed by Terma. It's a two-dimensional ship radar, so you're getting bearing and range on your little display there. This operates in the 2 to 4 gigahertz and the 8 to 10 gigahertz. That 8 to 10 gigahertz is the really accurate one. That's the one where you're going to see the small, lifeboats. You may not get the range that you get at 4 gigahertz, but you're going to get much more fidelity there. The beam width is 50 megahertz and can have up to 16 different user profiles. So you can, have a profile for coming into port and out of port. You can have another profile setting. So with one button, be ready to look for contacts in open water, so maybe you want to use a different frequency band for that. You can save 16 of those. Scan rate is 60 RPM. Scan-to-scan processing has 3 parallel channels, so you're going to get very good accuracy, very good detection, because it's basically scanning everything 3 times with 3 different channels. And this IOC'd back in 2000. The Sagem Series 30 Optronics mast. This is made by Safran, and there you can see a really good picture of the lenses, because there's, like I said, multiple cameras looking at different things like a thermal detector. They also have low light television, an eye-safe laser rangefinder, so you can pickle the button on the periscope handle or on the trigger, because this will be like a joystick driving this thing around, and it will give you a range to target. Wish I had that when I was in the Navy, but that's what they have now, and it's really very convenient. So no more having to measure distance based on mast head height. You can just hit the trigger and get an instant range. It has a panoramic display for long-range surveillance, and this IOC'd in 1994. Here's the CS3701 radar ESM. That small white thing is the sensor itself, and then the panels there, that's the actual processors. So this is made by Accelsior and is a modular electronic support measure in ESM. Also a direction finding system, so you can get a bearing to what you're seeing. So you don't just know the radar, you know the radar and the direction it's coming from. The sensitivity is 60 decibels. That's standard anymore, which is very sensitive. Just because it's standard doesn't mean it's not good. It is good. Accuracy is to 5 degrees. That would depend greatly on the frequency, but I guess that's what they're just putting out there. So, they can say, hey, this contact is 300, but it'd be plus or minus 2.5 degrees from 300. And the frequency band is from 2 to 18 gigahertz. So you're searching multiple NATO bands, essentially. And this IOC'd all the way back in 1986. Very old system. Here's the CSU 90.2 sonar system. So this has seen many different upgrades. That's probably where the 2 comes from. The CSU 90's been around forever. I believe it's used on, I want to say German submarines as well. It's on more than just this one. But this is probably built specifically for this submarine. Anyway, it's made by Atlas Electronic. It's an integrated hull-mounted and towed array sonar suite. Also has that flank array that I told you about. The flank array is the most important thing. The fact that it has a towed array on such a small submarine is very interesting to me, but I'm going to go with it. I have not seen them deploy a towed array on this before, but that's what they're putting out publicly, is I do have towed array ability. Maybe they clip it on. I don't know. That's what the Americans used to do when we were beginning to use towed arrays. We didn't have a good handling system to reel it in and out while we were underway. So we would literally go down the river. A tugboat would come up along behind us and clip it onto the back of the rudder, and it would be electrically connected to the sonar system inside the submarine. They may do something like that. I don't know. But they do say that they have a towed array on this very small, tiny, lightweight submarine. So I believe them. All right. So it does active and passive 550, 300, millisecond pulses. The frequency is going to be between 0.3 and 12 kilohertz. Those are normal active ranges in there. The fact that they can select anything in that is kind of nice. That's a very wide range of options for an active sonar. Now, the active intercept that we told you about can go all the way up to 100 kilohertz. And the reason why you want that to go to 100 kilohertz is that's where all of your fishermen out there off the coast of Sweden and everywhere else in the world that's fishing, they're using their fish finders to see where the schools of fish are. Those things operate in the 100 kilohertz range. So you need to be able to hear them so that you don't accidentally run underneath or anywhere near a fishing trawler that's got a net out that can cause problems if you run into it, right? So that's what they're listening for with that. And then the flank array is active and passive, and it goes from 10 hertz to 2.5 kilohertz. Very low frequency active, which tells me just on that frequency alone that they can see a long way. That's a long range sonar system. So very capable. I'm very impressed with this. The bandwidth is 1 kilohertz. It's fine. Bearing accuracy is down to half a beam or half a degree. And the operating range is 15,000 meters. That's probably an active mode and is in service from 1995. And the chairs look very comfortable, by the way. The chairs we had on the American Navy sonar system, not nearly as comfortable as these look. Love that photo. All right, here's the SA9510S mine avoidance sonar system. This is basically your bottom mapping sonar. Color display. You can see shipwrecks. You can see mines. You can see pits and valleys. And, if you have any kind of, seamount that's not mapped on your chart, you'll see it on this thing, but you got to have it turned on to do it. So, but it is an active projection. You are making noise between 65 and 105 kilohertz whenever you're using this system, which is why it's not on all the time, right? You're essentially pinging, but you're pinging at such a high frequency. Obviously, no human ear can hear that, but other sonar systems that are designed to go up to 100 kilohertz can hear that. So, but this gives you a 3D map render on your display of the area around you. It's very good. Here's the TP62 heavyweight torpedo, manufactured by Saab. This is a wire-guided anti-ship and anti-submarine heavyweight torpedo, also called Torpedo 2000 because it IOC'd in 2001. But, when everybody calmed down from calling everything 2000s back at the turn of the century, its official name is TP62. This is a significant upgrade from what they replaced. This gave them much more speed and range. Max speed is publicly 50 knots. It's probably 55. That's what I'm guessing. Range is about 50 kilometers. And max depth is much deeper than any submarine will ever go. 500 meters, pretty deep. It has 250 kilograms of PBX. Now that's interesting because the PBX is the same type of explosive the Americans use. So that's probably worldwide, I would imagine. It's basically like a plastic explosive, but it's very dense. So it makes a very large explosion. All right, and it's active and passive wire guided. I was in 2001. Heavyweight torpedo. Here's the Type 47 submarine-launched lightweight torpedo, made by Saab as well. So it's only 40 centimeters in diameter, relatively small compared to the big, 53 centimeter one. Max speed is only 40 knots. Range, though, 20 kilometers. And can go all the way down to 300 meters if it needs to. Active and passive wire-guided. This uses pump jet propulsion like the American AdCap torpedo uses. And this I was seeing in 2022. Very good torpedo. All right, the final thoughts. We're already to the end of the lecture here. 3 Gotland Class submarines. They're the only submarines in the Swedish Navy, so they are the backbone because that's it. They have 3 because they realize they're going to need to have one at sea all the time. And when you have 3 submarines, you can do that because you keep one in maintenance, one in training, or just resting the crew, and then one can be out doing the job, and you can rotate those. A lot easier than just if you had 2, for example, like they had planned originally. There would be periods of time where you don't have either one at sea. So anyway, 3 submarines, all went extensive upgrades. So they were built in the 90s. They had a refit around 2010, all 3 of them, and they were brought back into service. But the third refit happened between 2018 and 2020, and that was called a midlife refit. And that's when they lost the Holland. They did not initially want to bring back number 3. They just had the Upland and the Gotland until 2025. In February 2025, they had finished the refit on the 3rd one after a couple of years. That took took a couple of years to do that. And then they brought all 3, the 3rd one back. So that's what they have today as we're making this recording. Stealth is a key feature of these submarines, of course. One, they don't have anti-ship long-range attack. So they have to get within, 50 kilometers to have a chance to even sink a ship. And all of these limitations do not affect this Navy as much as it may affect other navies like the American Navy, because they're operating in a relatively narrow body of water, mostly. Now they've joined NATO, that's going to change. But when these were designed for purpose, they're just going to be there in the Baltic Fleet, watching, Finnish and German and even Russian ships operate. The big thing is they need to have very good sonar systems to make sure that they don't run into all the fishing that happens in that narrow body of water. And when I say narrow, I'm comparing it to like an ocean, right? Still a pretty big body of water, but it's the Baltic Sea. So after the upgrade, they have A26 capability. A26 is the designation for the Belkin class submarine. The Belkin class submarine has been on paper, designed, talked about for decades. Like I think all the way back to the 1990s, they were talking about building the A26, and it lost funding and has been refunded over and over again by Swedish government, and it's never been built. And I think they're finally going to get around to building it. We do actually have a subbrief on the A26. Search Belking here on Patreon, and you'll probably find it. I know it's out there. I know we did one. It's part, I think, of another submarine lecture, but you'll know the thumbnail when you see it, because it's all artist renderings basically, because it's not been built. But we'll see what that submarine is whenever they build it, because it's been designed for so long. I'm sure the original systems that they were going to put on it back in the 2000s are probably changed and upgraded, but they're probably the systems that are on the new Holland refit class now, right? But again, they're not talking about what they are, how capable they are. Just know that the Holland is unique of the 3 because it has the A26 Belkin class submarine systems on board. Okay, Gotland Class submarines are capable in littoral waters. Yeah, this is a very lightweight, small, maneuverable submarine that has that very detailed bottom mapping sonar. So they can look at their display and see the world around them in 3 dimensions. That is a big capability, so that you don't have to take time to put that picture together in your head like a sonarman will do. And it takes, 5, 6, 7 minutes to get that picture. You can just turn on the SA95 and get that picture instantly in 3 dimensions, in color, see everything. It's a great tool. This is a great submarine, purpose-built to defend the coastlines of Sweden and dominate the Baltic Sea. And it would be very good at that. And I can't wait to see what they do next with this A26. So these submarines are going to remain in service through the 2030s, at least the first half of the 2030s. And that's when I expect we'll begin seeing A26 sea trials, launches, and we'll definitely cover that new Swedish submarine in detail when they finally build it. That's going to be an amazing time because the A26 has been talked about for so long. I cannot wait to see it actually built. But this has been the Gotland Subbrief, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.